5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Dalton! Are you ready?
The second movie's ending, in which Josh and Dalton Lambert are having their memories of the further wiped, is seen at the beginning of this one. Jump ahead to around 10 years later, when Josh and Renee have separated, but she still invites Dalton, Foster, and Callie to Lorraine's burial. Even though their relationship has soured after the divorce, Renee advises Josh that he should still drive Dalton to college the next week. Then Josh sees a man nearby and goes over to talk to him. He introduced himself as Carl and claims to have known Lorraine in the past. Josh reluctantly texts Dalton from his car to ask if he is okay with Josh driving him to college. A shadowy person can be seen approaching Josh's automobile from behind. Dalton replies, yes, to Josh's text, puts his phone away, and the figure vanishes. Josh picks up Dalton and takes him to his liberal arts college, where he meets his roommate Chris Winslow. Josh feels there was a mix-up because he assumed she would be male given her name. Josh is absent from Dalton's drawings of his brothers and mother, which are displayed. Josh is the target of Dalton's wrath, and he brands his son a ungrateful shit in the process. Josh exits, and they both begin to sob in private. When Professor Armagan, "Hi, I'm a boss," advises one student to rip up his artwork because it seems too simple, Dalton realizes right away that she is stern and judgmental. The student is expelled from Armagan's class when he refuses. She claims that despite Armagan's praise for his depiction of Lorraine, Dalton begins to destroy it because he had the initiative to do it. The remainder of the class is then told to delve deeply into their recollections for their upcoming drawings. Dalton uses charcoal to sketch a door before a demon hand pushes against him and causes him to bleed on the door, bringing back memories of the further. Josh also seems to be roused by this. Chris makes an effort to get to know Dalton in order to make him feel more at ease. Dalton claims to have no recollection of his 10th birthday and that ever since then, he has been terrified of the dark, forcing him to sleep with a bright night light. Josh visits the doctor to have an MRI. He seems to lose consciousness inside as the lights go out. Josh begins screaming for help when he notices what appears to be a monster slithering in a medical gown in his direction. Josh panics until the doctor releases him, telling him that the scan went okay and that he dozed out for 15 minutes. Chris tries to get to know Dalton to help him feel more comfortable. Dalton claims he doesn't remember turning 10, but he's had a fear of the dark ever since, which has made him sleep with a bright nightlight ever since. To have an MRI, Josh goes to the doctor. As the lights dim inside, he appears to pass out. Josh sees what looks like a monster slithering in a hospital gown at him and starts screaming for help. The doctor tells Josh that the scan went well and that he dozed off for 15 minutes before releasing him, which causes Josh to panic. After falling asleep, Dalton astral projects into the further at night. Chris is awakened and made aware of his presence when he enters her new room and uses her keyboard. She returns to Dalton's room, where he is making an effort to describe the images he has been experiencing. Later, Chris looks into the astral projecting phenomenon and comes across videos of Elise Rayner, who Dalton is somewhat aware of, and Tucker and Specs, Angus Sampson and Lee Wanell, who describe it in more detail. Josh is trying to recall his loved ones by hanging up images of them throughout his house as a memory exercise because his memory is starting to fail him. The same figure who followed Josh to the graveyard begins to approach the window from the outside before breaking through and attacking Josh. Josh discovers a box marked, Ben Burton, after all the ruckus. Josh checks into Ben's situation because he committed himself while receiving mental health treatment. Additionally, the box includes images of Lorraine, which let Josh realize that Ben is the long-lost father he never knew about and had always ascribed responsibility for his behavior to. A note on the back of one of the pictures says, "This ends with me," indicating that Ben thought killing himself would stop the rest of his family from entering the further. Dalton and Chris sneak back to Nick's room to use astral projection because Dalton wants to connect with the dead pledge's ghost. While there, Dalton is attacked in the further by a more demonic being, while Chris is attacked in the actual world. Nick discovers her lifeless but is able to revive her. Chris informs Dalton that she can no longer assist him after being sent to the hospital. Josh visits Renee's home to tell her what he has discovered about his father. We discover the reason for their divorce through their chat. Josh chased Renee and the children with a hammer while under the influence of one of the demons in the further, which is why Dalton depicted Josh as hideous in his drawing of the incident. Josh claims that in order to put a stop to the situation, he must once more enter the further. Experiencing the recollection of Josh attempting to attack his family, Dalton is also present in the further. In the meantime, one of the demons is using Dalton's physical body to assault Chris once more in the actual world. Josh and Dalton are able to track each other down while attempting to flee Lipstick Face, Joseph Bashara. Josh sticks behind because he believes he must put an end to the terror even though Dalton is able to escape. He arrives at the entrance Dalton sketched as red, just as Lipstick Face is attempting to enter through it. Dalton covers the door in his room with paint, making it vanish and trapping Lipstick Face within. Then Josh sees a vision of Ben grinning at him, and Josh seems to have finally come to terms with Ben leaving. When Josh awakens, Renee and Foster are happy to see that he is fine. When all is said and done, Dalton and Chris remain together. Later, Josh and Renee seem to be on the mend, and he might perhaps move back in with her. He has a vision of Elise speaking to him and telling him that he and Dalton have a bright future ahead of them before he departs. Josh goes back to Dalton's room, where he finds that Dalton has added a painting of the time Josh carried him out of the further. The two then share a long-awaited hug. Josh Lambert has cut himself off from his family almost 10 years after their adventure in the further because a demon made him hunt them around with a hammer. As he leaves for college, Dalton resents him because he and Renee are divorced. As soon as their memories are awakened, Josh and Dalton both find themselves back in the further. Josh discovers that the experience has roots in his long-lost father Ben Byrne, a mentally ill man who committed suicide in an effort to prevent his family from traveling into the further. Josh and Dalton must re-enter the further after a string of hauntings in order to face their traumas before the demons can claim them. Josh makes an effort to stay behind, but Dalton manages to save him and fend off the Lipstick Face demon. Josh also perceives Ben's spirit and seems to beg his pardon. Josh mends his friendship with Dalton and appears to be on the verge of reconciling with Renee. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and like and share the video. Goodbye.